All right, guys. Happy Tuesday. Today we're going to be analyzing the 11 properties that hit the market in South Florida. That's Miami-Dade, Broward County, Palm Beach. 11 income producing properties. We're going to decide if they're worth even taking a look at. And if they are worth taking a look at, we'll do a deeper dive and see exactly how much money they could make us. So with that being said, we first need to, in order to analyze anything, we need to know if we're going to borrow money, where the interest rate's sitting at. And that's the first thing I want to show you. On my top part right here is the average 30-year fixed rate mortgage, which for most of you, that's exactly what you would use in order to finance one of these deals, or it would be tied to this 30-year fixed rate mortgage rate. As of last Thursday, the average 30-year mortgage rate for a fixed rate loan, right, was sitting at 6.38%. That's right here, guys, 6.38 as of last Thursday. These get updated every Thursday, so make sure to check us out on Thursday to get updated. With that being said, we make sure that that is on our calculator right here. Right here, you can see there's a 4.5 there. Why is there a 4.5? I think that after this whole Iran thing is over, interest rates will go to a 4.5. I think I'm being optimistic, guys. I've always been blamed on being optimistic, but I also like to look at the numbers. So, however, for today's analysis, of course, we're going to use 6.38% interest rates, what it is at right now. So, with that being said, let's take a look at the actual market in South Florida. What is it looking like? And now, for the last 4 days, I want to say, the amount of houses hitting the market is basically the same amount of houses that are seeing a price decrease. In other words, for every house that is hitting the market, for every seller that calls an agent and says like, hey, list my house, and we're gonna go live this week, you have another seller calling his agent, or the agent calling them, whatever, and saying like, hey, let's lower the price on our listing, right? So the trend has actually been a little bit slower, because we used to be seeing more sellers lowering their prices actually than new houses coming onto the market. And that's just a response to like how much inventory there is right now in South Florida, specifically around Miami-Dade. I'm not gonna lie, there's parts of Miami-Dade, especially in condos, right, where you look at zip codes like 33132, 33131, and the inventory supply in months, right, of housing there for condos is ridiculous. I mean, it doesn't even make sense. It looks like an error. Right now, it's sitting at 25 months of inventory, I believe, in 33132 for condos, which basically means that if condos were to sell at the rate that they're selling right now in that area, it would take 25 months to burn through the current inventory. Okay, so it's ridiculous. A regular buyer's market, just so you have an idea, is around 5 months worth of inventory, right? Once you start getting to like 3, it's more balanced. Anything less than 3 is a seller's market, right? But at 25 months, it's one of the strongest buyer markets we've ever seen. And with that being said, how does that translate over to investment properties? It kind of sort of does. Remember, real estate is hyper local. So we cannot just grab what, if condos don't sell, it does not mean that multifamily doesn't sell. We got to look at the specific type of property, the specific type of assets that you're buying, and we analyze that hyper locally. Now, what we're doing today is we just want to know if the numbers make sense. So we're not going to be analyzing areas, right? Because I don't want to get like called out for saying like, hey, you're steering people away from certain neighborhoods or whatever. But you are going to know how to analyze a property from the numbers, right? Because if at the end of the day, the numbers make sense and you're in a good area, that's fantastic. But if the numbers make sense and you're not in the best of areas, well, at least the numbers make sense. And like, then you could go and check out the area and think, and then you could say like, hey, is this area on the upward trend, or is it, not really improving, or is it on a downward trend? And then you can make that additional decision. From there, I'll let you and your real estate agent take that initiative and do that. But we will be analyzing the numbers for what these houses could rent for. I will call bull if I see a property that's saying that there's more rent to be had than they could realistically achieve. And with that being said, guys, let's take a look. We have 11 houses. Right before we went live, I checked it out. right? So we're going to click here on new multis in the last 24 hours and see how many properties have hit the market. So 11, like I mentioned. Let's take a look at a condensed view. Here we go. And I like to sort this stuff by price per square foot. Okay, starting with the most expensive stuff. All right, and that's going to take us to a $1.25 million duplex in Miami-Dade County. So let's put that up in the calculator. 1.2 duplex in Miami-Dade County. It's currently paying $11,722 a year in taxes. How big is it? It's not that big, 1,664 square feet. Now, they are telling us that they are collecting $5,000 a month in rent here, guys. And I mean, you guys don't have to be geniuses, right? If you've heard of the 1% rule, it means does the property collect at least 1% of the rent, of the value of the rent per month? So in other words, this property, $1.2 million, 1% of $1.2 million, right? The purchase price is going to be $12,000. So the 1% rule says, hey, does it at least collect $12,000? And guys, if it collects $5,000, right, you don't have to be geniuses to know that it's nowhere near close, right? And that gives you a good estimate of how the rest of the numbers will look, right? It's not a definitive thing, and we'll see that in other examples as we come along, but it does give you an idea of where this property is going to sit. And at 0.42, you know, I'll just go into it for this property since our first one, but this is not going to make sense unless there's an error in the listing. You know, great picture of the lady saying like, this is my duplex I'm selling. All right. So it's pretty, right? But it could be as pretty and as close to the water as you want. It could be in a great location, guys. But again, if it does not make rent, it does not make rent. And we are here to cash flow. We are here to make money. We are here to make wise investments, to invest smarter. So with that said, let's take a look at the guts of the deal. Yeah, they said that it's two ones, right? One making $24.50 and the other making $25.50. So yeah, on a 5,000 square foot lot. So it's not even that big of a square of a lot where you could say, well, like I'll buy it at 1.2, but I could build something more on top of this, right? You would need to tear down this current house to maybe build a quad or something like that. But anyway, at that point, this property makes no sense. You can see here that if you were to buy this using an FHA loan, which you can't because the price is too high, or a 10% down loan, right? You would never see positive cash flow from this property until the day that you finish paying off the loan. So in 30 years. So for that reason, we're going to go ahead. We're going to discard this property. Come here. And it's the first property we analyzed, the first fail of the day. All right, let's go on to the next property, guys. Next property, it's a fourplex in Broward County, and they want $1.9 million for it. They're currently paying $21,722 a year in taxes. It's a little bit bigger, about 2,600 square feet. Do they tell us how much they're collecting in rent? They do not. Let's take a look at the pictures real quick. Okay, so this property actually came on yesterday, so I don't know if they relisted some information. We're just going to go through this quickly, guys, because I believe that the next three properties, if they relisted this information, might still be listed incorrectly. Let's take a look at the guts of this deal real quick. Yeah. So for all these properties, and I'll just show you guys quickly, and we'll just eliminate three in a row real quick. You see that this guy says this is a fourplex. We go in here to verify that it's a fourplex. 1 and 3. Okay. But he was only listing 2 rents. Okay, he's only listing 2 rents here for a total of, what is that? Let's see, 4,800 on this side, and then 2,100 on this side. So 6,900. You can see it's a total fail. Like it's a fail through and through. You would never be able to get financing for this property. You would need to buy this cash. It's so terrible. Oops, sorry. There's a bee in the house and it landed on me. That's so weird. Okay, so with that being said, guys, this property makes no sense. We'll look at the next one. See, same thing here. They say it's a fourplex. They're only listing 2 for that are up for rent. And same thing here with another fourplex. And this one, they don't even say how much they're getting. Oh, this is a duplex that they're saying. Oh, all right, this isn't the same one. These two. Oh, and this one right here. Okay. So we're going to go ahead. We're going to discard this $1.9 million one. We're going to discard this $1.85 million one. And we're going to discard this $1.25 million one. And they almost look the same, guys, right? So it's a compound that they're selling. None of them make sense, by the way. We analyzed them yesterday. If you guys want to check that video out, please do. So we're going to go ahead. We're going to come back here. And we're going to click on these three. And we're going to discard them. Okay. So that's 3 fails right there. All right, guys. That takes us to our next property. This one is in Miami-Dade. Okay, $750,000. They are currently paying, let's see, $10,465 a year in taxes. It's not that big, 1,544 square feet. Do they tell us how much you're collecting in rents? No, they do tell us it's flood zone X, which is the best kind of flood zone you could be in. There's only 13 pictures here, which is okay. That's the property right there. Wow, it's really close to the street. I've never seen a property so close to the street. Interesting. Okay. Pretty well remodeled on the inside. Okay, you can see here, guys, there's a big outside patio. But man, this almost feels like a single family home. Let's take a look at the guts of this deal. All right, they say it's a duplex. Duplex, turnkey duplex invested in Little Havana, excellent income producing property in the heart of up and coming Little Havana area. Fully renovated 4-bedroom, 2-bath, multifamily, features 2 units, 2-bedroom, 1 bath on each side with private entrances. Okay, guys, this kind of smells like a single family home. Let's take a look here. No, it's zone multifamily. Okay. And it's 2 units. Okay, so this is a legal duplex in Little Havana. Usually the stuff here is not very legal. Ask me how I know. And then, yeah. So what are they getting in rents is the question, right? Because they're selling it at $750,000. Well, I'll tell you what, guys. We ran the numbers ourselves. We know what the average or the median prices are in Miami-Dade County. In Miami-Dade County, the median price for a 2-1 is $2,300. I am going to say that in Little Havana, a newly remodeled 2-1 like this, you know, it might even get you $2,500, right? Just giving him the benefit of the doubt here. And even giving him the benefit of the doubt here, guys, this property does not make sense, right? You would be hard pressed to get a loan for this. And so you could see here, even though that the rents would pay your mortgage, it would pay your principal, interest, taxes, and insurance on this at this price. You're right. You would need to show the bank, one, that you're able to get these rents for sure, right? And then banks would probably, because you're at just 106%, they're going to give you a hard time, right? They're either going to make it difficult for you guys to get the loan. They might want to have more money in down payment, or if they give it to you just with a 25% down payment for an investor loan, they might give you increased interest rates, which would, you know, just make this all the worse kind of a deal. So with that being said, guys, this is a hard pass for me. They would need to, I mean, to make this property work, they would need to decrease the price to at least 600, right? At least 600. You can see there, guys, you're like, yeah, I'm getting good at this, guys. At the 124%, right? This is normally called the DSCR rate, debt service coverage ratio rate. I put it here just if it's your first time getting into real estate investing. Will the rents pay the mortgage? You want to see the rents pay at least 125% of a 25% down mortgage, right? So you would, at 25%, you would cash flow at day one, right? If it was $600,000, and if you bought this using FHA or a 10% loan, you can see how long it takes here to actually cash flow from this property. But unfortunately, he's not selling for that price. He's selling for $750, and at that price, I think that it'll be really difficult for him to come down a whole $150,000. And so for that reason, this property is also one that we're going to go ahead and discard. Okay. Next up, we have this, let's see. It's a fourplex in Miami-Dade County. Jesus Christ. Guys, this is not going to work. I mean, who sells this, right? $4,487,617. And they also came up with a crazy freaking number. What do these people think, dude, when they actually list this stuff, you know? Like, it's ridiculous. I mean, it's huge if it's accurate. 9,276 square feet, okay? They're saying that they're collecting $19,000 a month in rent, which almost makes me think, guys, this is not going to be a quad or a duplex, right? They say it's a fourplex, but a lot of times when you see this stuff, you have commercial real estate agents that, you know, they want to expose their property every which way, and they'll come into the MLS, a residential MLS, and they'll list a commercial property. I can almost guarantee that that's what's happening here. Let's take a look. Maybe I'm wrong. That's it, only 14 pictures. All right, let's look at the guts of this deal. Rare investment opportunity you don't want to miss. This offering includes the entire project of 4 townhouses being sold together as a complete multifamily asset. Perfect for investors seeking strong cash flow and long-term appreciation in a low-density product, highly desirable to today's renters. Properties rarely come like this in the package, yada, yada, yada. So they're saying that it's a 4-4, it's a 4-4, another 4-3, and a 4-3. They're townhouses, right? They're all grouped together, and that you could get a total of, $19,750. You could, you know, to be exact, you could get $5,000 here. You could get $5,000 for the other townhouse. You could get $4,750 dollars for the other one, and for the last one, you could also get another $5,000, which puts it there. The problem is that you wouldn't even have, even if you rented them all at these prices, and I'm sure that they're throwing, you know, the prices up, it wouldn't be enough to even cover the mortgage. It wouldn't even be enough to cover the mortgage. So for that reason, this guy trying to sell 4 single family houses together, I wonder how they're listed. Let's see. Yeah, so it's listed condo townhouse, right? So it's not even, yeah. So there's that. We're going to go ahead and discard it. It makes no sense. All right, guys. I think that we're getting to the part where it starts making a little bit more sense. We're down to a $1 million fourplex. It's not a terrible price for a fourplex in Broward County. Okay, I forgot a 0 there. My body doesn't want to type that extra 0 when it comes to buying an investment property. All right, square feet. 2,183 square feet. Let's look at these pictures. Okay, so this is a traditional looking, you know, multifamily house. Okay, I don't love the box ACs. I don't think anybody does, but you know. Okay, so they're saying that there's I-95, Walmart, and Publix and CVS are close by. They're over there. They're over there. Okay. I guess that's downtown, I don't know, Fort Lauderdale. Okay. Let's look at the guts of the deal. Whoops. Sorry, guys. Let's look at these guts of these deals. They don't tell us anything. Turnkey 4-unit multifamily offering immediate cash flow at a 6% cap rate. Whatever that might mean for them. Currently generating $83,000 a year in annual revenue, featuring two bedroom units and one featuring two bedroom units. Okay, so two twos, and 2 1-bedroom units. But is it a 2-2 or 2-1? I'm guessing it's a 2-1. And then the other ones are 1-1s, with 3 of 4 units fully renovated. Property includes new stainless steel appliances, separate water and electric meters, new water heaters, a new flat roof, which I hate. I hate flat roofs. Assigned parking for each unit and leases in place with security deposits and no open permits and professionally managed. Wow. Ideal for 1031 exchange, seeking a clean, stabilized asset with additional upside through renovation of the fourth, blah, 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 blah. Okay, but they're saying that right now, right, currently generating $83,000 in annual revenue. Okay, guys, so that means that they're collecting $83,000, right? Dividing it by 12. So that's what they're getting per month in revenue, guys, right? $6,917. The question here is, are they getting that for 3 units, or are they getting that for all 4? Because if that's just 1/3 of what they're getting, right, then which one is the one that's vacant? Which is the one that's not vacant? So this is not enough information for us to like go off of. I'm not even sure why this property is back here on the market. I don't know if they decreased the price today. Let me see. Because this property says that it's been on the market. See, they say it hit the market today. But really, they put this on the market. They just closed on this property not that long ago. Check this out, guys. They listed it on, if you can see it here, guys. So they listed this property on October 29th, 2024. And it went through price decrease, price decrease, price decrease. And then there's finally a closed sale, right? In August of last year. They rented out at $1,625, right? So now we know the rents. They really rented it out at $1,625. They rented out the other one at $1,250, okay? They rented the last one out at $1,800 according to them, okay? So that's what they're getting right now. And we must assume that the other one, they might be saying another $1,800 for it. Yeah, it's pretty much what they were, right? What they're saying that they could get. There's a problem, right? They're saying maybe this is the one that's not renovated, maybe. And so they're estimating that they could get this. The problem is that even if you could get all these rents, it doesn't pay for itself, right? It doesn't pay enough where you could get a comfortable mortgage for this property. And so for that reason, this property we're going to go ahead and discard this property, guys. It just doesn't pass the smell test when it comes to these rents. If they really were rented, he would put here leased. He would list how much each one is rented out at, and he would, if I were him, attach the leases so that we could look at them. However, none of that's done, so we're going to go ahead and discard this property. It's not something I would look at. Next up, we're down to less than $1 million, guys. Finally, $910,000 duplex, fourplex, sorry, in Broward County, currently paying $16,925. Whoops, a year in taxes. Okay, it is 1,898 square feet. Let's see if they tell us how much they're collecting in rents. They do. They said they're collecting $7,625 a month in rents. Okay, and a flood zone AE, it's not the best of flood zones, so you're going to pay a bit of a premium for being in that flood zone. It's not going to be a whole crazy amount. But let's take a look at the property. It doesn't look that bad. There's many splits throughout. Better than box ACs, but still not the best. But you know, it's not terrible. Okay, it looks like it's nicely renovated, guys. This is nice. If you're a new investor, this is a plus, right? You come in here, if the numbers make sense, you don't have to worry about like, dude, like renovations and dealing with contractors. You can just take it one step at a time. I like that they paint the colors, the colors, they paint them different for each unit. That's nice. Okay. All right. Let's take a look at the guts of the deal real quick. So turnkey multifamily investment generating $91,500 annually, fully renovated in 2024, including a brand new roof, stabilized asset with no foreseeable. Stabilized asset, guys, means that they have long-term rents in place, right? And that they're getting, that's what it should mean, that they're getting the rents that they're getting are similar for the area, right? Now, why is that important? because if they tell you like, hey, there's an opportunity to increase rents, you know, they might either be slacking with the property management, so they're not really caring about getting, you know, their highest and best offers, or that the product is not in the best shape, so that they're having to rent it below the existing market. However, it's stabilized. It means that, hey, you know, it's producing. It's like you have your car on cruise control, right? You're not flooring it, you're not braking, you're just chilling, you're good. So it means that these rents should continue to come in without a lot of additional work, which by the way that the property was looking maintained and renovated, I would say that that's accurate. All right, so let's keep looking. No foreseeable maintenance, like I was telling you guys, or capital expenditures in the near term. Property features long-term stable tenants with a strong in-place income. Price to sell at a 7% net cap rate. Now, I was whining earlier, you know, bitching and moaning about the cap rate. I hate when people mention cap rates, and I'll tell you why. A cap rate is determined by your net operating income, right? It's the net operating income divided by the price, right? So if I tell you that your net operating income, for example, for this property is $910,000, right? Or sorry, if I tell you that the purchase price is $910,000, and I tell you, for example, that I'm getting $91,000, right, a year in revenue, and that all that revenue goes straight to my pocket, right? That would be a 10 cap, because that's my net operating income. But of course, out of that, guys, you're going to have to paying a lot of other things. You have to be paying, I would reserve 5% for vacancies, 5% for repairs, another 5% for capex, capital expenditures, replacing roofs, etc., right? Or like saving up to replace these things. Plus there's taxes, plus there's like insurance, plus there's all these other things that eat away from that rent that you're getting. It's no longer that. So, however, this is not something that is set in stone. Every single person determines what their net operating income is. There's no rule that says you must allocate 5% towards this, and 5% towards vacancy, and 5% towards your capex. Nothing says that. Some people don't include like the taxes and the income, right? But I do. I want to know, right? I want to know for myself how much money I'm left with at the end of the day, especially if I'm borrowing money. Now you could tell me like, Andres, cap rate is supposed to look at if you're buying it cash. And technically, yes, that's true. But however, that's not what I like to look at. I like to look at how it's going to be. By the way, cap rate means capitalization rate, at how fast, right, the property will capitalize. And so I want to know how fast it could capitalize, right? If I grab all that money and I could put it back towards the property. And so it's just, if you don't include taxes and insurance, it's just, for me, it's not quite accurate if you are pulling financing. So for that reason, we're not sure that 7% net cap, right? It's like, okay, what are your expenses that you're actually, you know, taking into consideration? So you see here, with reliable cash flow and minimal operational burden, current utilities total approximately $535 a month, $315 for electricity and $220 for water, which is another question. Why are they paying for electricity if this property is a multifamily, which that they're explaining here? Let's see. Property is equipped with 2 FPL meters and 1 water meter. Per FPL engineering, electric can be separated into 4 individual meters. It costs a shit ton of money to do that, by the way. Providing future flexibility if desired. Well-maintained, low-maintenance asset and a strong rental market, perfect for buyers, blah, 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 or doing a 1031 exchange. Okay, so with that being said, let's see how much you're actually getting per month in rent. So first of all, let's look at the unit breakdown. It's 411s. We could see it right here, guys. 411s, okay? They're saying that they're getting $1,800 a month for each one, more or less. $1,850, $1,875, whoops, and $2,100. So at that price, guys, this is a deal worth looking at, okay? It's worth looking at, and I'll give you a couple of different reasons why from the information that I read. First of all, right, if you were to use a DSCR loan, a debt service coverage ratio type of loan, where you don't have to show like even like your bank statements, nothing. You just got to come with 25% of the down payment and you could buy it. This property, you you would be able to get financing if you could prove these rents, right? If you could show the leases for these, which apparently these guys have leases for them. So that'd be great because it'd be easy for you guys to get a loan on this, right? 125%. On the 1% rule, it's sitting at a 0.84. That, it's not bad. It means let's continue looking at this. What does this also mean? It means that this property, if you put a 25% down payment loan, you're going to cash flow on day one, right? It means that you're going to buy this and you're going to be making money on day one. What do I also like? You got to find a way, right, to put this money back. You got to have the tenants pay for their electric. I mean, that is crazy. I don't want to be paying electric for the tenants. What did they go buck wild using electricity? There's got to be a way to split that. And they sell, I think that they sell like, there's ways to like subrogate, not subrogate, but like divide basically, right? That bill and be able to read accurately how much electricity is going to each unit. However, that probably means that you would need to have breaker boxes at each unit. And if they don't have individual breaker boxes, that might be the issue. So this requires more work. This requires you going out there and checking this stuff out. They also sell like electronic meters that could read how much water. So you could divvy up that water bill between the tenants as well. So first things first, guys. I should have done this at the beginning, but let's do it now before it's too late. We know it's zone multifamily, right? It looks like and yeah, it's 4 units. Okay, so it's 4 units. So you wouldn't have a problem, pulling permits for this stuff because it's actually zoned for a quad. It's recognized as being a 4-unit one. Now here's another thing, guys. All right. So this is interesting. This makes the deal very interesting. So there's a possibility to already, that there's a possibility to increase your rents by dividing or installing, separate meters for your tenants, both for water and electricity. That's one. But here's the interesting part. Notice how this rent for this other 1-1 is $2,100, right? What if you could do what if we go out and we look at this property and we find out that, dude, we could probably get $2,100 for all 4. What would this property look like, right? And if we look at the area, were these guys maybe just a little bit lazy with the property management? Could we get better rents when the rents are over? Because if we can, then this property is a really nice deal. It's a really nice deal because at 6.38%, it would take 6 years for you to be able to get cash flow on this property, okay, using FHA. But if interest rates were to drop to what I think they will, okay, 4.5% after this whole thing with Iran is over, look at that, guys. Now you're looking that you could cash flow on day one. Day one. So for that reason, this property for me, at 6.38, let's put it up there, 6.38. This probably beats the S&P 500 too, guys. Let's look at that. Look at that, guys. If you invest, right, using FHA, which all you need to buy this property would be $31,000, okay? You would be getting, on average, year over year, right, almost 17% return on your investment, okay? Now, the S&P 500 could only do about 10%, right? So maybe for cash, it's a little bit less than that, but there's also a lot of advantages, right? Look how much money you would get, guys, if you invest the $31,000 after 30 years. After 30 years, this property would produce for you $2.6 million, $2.25 million, guys. 71x your investment. In other words, 7,100% return on your investment over 30 years, right? The amount of wealth that it would build at the end of the day, it almost matches, it always does, right? It always almost matches the guy that bought this cash, because as you go paying off your principal, your rents are like putting money in your piggy bank, even though you're not seeing that. You're not getting that cash in your pocket. It's putting money in your piggy bank every single month, right, guys? So look at this, guys. Look how the cash flow here, because of the interest rates being so crummy, is right around here, like around the 5%. And mind you, guys, this is with you saving 15% towards repairs, vacancy, and capital expenditures. But if you don't have to do that, right, you would probably be cash flowing on this property on day one too. But if you were to come here and do 4.5, dude, let's do 5.98, which it was at, last 3 weeks ago, right? You just shaved off a whole year and 3 months from FHA, and you increased your rents or your return on your investment there to almost 19%. So for that reason, guys, this property for me is probably a B minus, or a solid B. And yeah, I would say it's something worth looking at. Put this back at 6.38, and let's go ahead and we will save this property for later. And we will say that this property is something worth looking at. All right, our next property, guys, takes us. We stay in Broward. Okay, so we're staying in Broward County, and we are looking at an $800,000 duplex, paying $10,384 right now in taxes. By the way, just got to go back to the property. One of the reasons that I really like that property right now is just because of the condition on the inside. If you're a new investor, or even if you're not, right? Like, how nice is it to come into a potentially cash flowing property on day one and not have to do a lot of work, right? And not even have to go and get tenants, right? These are nice, well-paying tenants, and you could ask for a rent roll, and they provide us with rent rolls, right? Showing us that they're stable tenants. They really are stabilized. Dude, that's awesome. So anyway, let's look at this deal. Let me stop fangirling over the last deal. All right, they're saying that they're collecting 7,000. Oh no, that was the other property we're looking at. And so no, this property is actually 2,064 square feet. Everything else is right. Okay, let's look at the pictures for this deal, this $800,000 duplex. So they're saying that, I think we saw this one too. They're saying that the duplex is here and that this is downtown Hollywood. Okay, yeah, we saw this deal yesterday, so I'm not sure why it's coming up today again. Let's quickly look at that. And they're saying that they're getting $3,200 for the 3.2, and that they're getting $1,800 for that other one. And that's $5,000, right? They want $800,000 for the place, right? That does not even cover the mortgage itself. And let's make sure that it was a duplex. Nope, that was the problem, right? This is listed as a single family home, guys. So we're gonna go ahead. We're gonna discard this. This is a huge red flag. And so, guys, how can you tell it's a single family home? Dude, look at the entrance, right? Look at the layout. It feels like really skinny, right? Look at the single electric meter, right? These are like giveaways. Corner income property with 2 updated buildings in prime Hollywood location, minutes to Young Circle, blah, 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 blah. So the main home is a charming 3.2. Blah, 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 blah. Front bedroom bath offers potential to convert to efficiency, creating a 2-bedroom, 1-bath. And so this is an illegal duplex, all right? This is an illegal listing. So obviously for that reason, we're gonna go ahead and discard it. Go ahead, discard that. And we are down to our last 2 properties. Okay, there is this duplex right here. We're still in Broward County. Okay, we're in Broward County. They want $999,000 for it. It's a duplex. They're currently paying $13,158 a year in taxes. The duplex is 2,729 square feet. Okay, do they tell us how much you're collecting in rents? They do not. They do say that it's in flood zone AE, which again, it's not the best. You're going to pay a little bit of a premium for that. Let's take a look at the pictures. The property is beautiful. On one of these little wedges, it's on a big, okay, it's on a pretty big lot there. The property on the inside, it's got that stereotypical Miami, South Florida home feel to it. The floors could be updated, but they don't look terrible. Okay. The lighting could be updated. You know, new shaker cabinets. So it looks pretty well maintained, guys. It looks, you know, pretty well taken care of. You know, there's mini splits here, which I'm not a fan of. So I wonder if the home also has central air or if it doesn't. So you can see that up here, guys. Like there should be some central air ducts that at least should exist in the house. They might have stopped working. So you can tell this bathroom does need some renovations. You can see the multiple meters here, so we know that this is probably a conforming duplex, meaning that it's legal. There's some space there for storage, which is nice. Okay, I like this property. You know, I like it. Let's see how much they're getting in rents. Oops, wrong one. All right. Rare opportunity in prime location, Lighthouse Point. Property sits on a 10,000 square foot lot. Yada, 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 yada. No HOA, yada, yada, yada. Close to the beaches, yada, yada, yada. Okay, so they're saying that for the 2-2, they don't tell us how much they're getting in rent. They're saying that both units are vacant. Well, guys, guess what? We do have averages. Let's look at the average for Miami-Dade County. I'm sorry, for Broward County for a 2-1. It's 1960 for just a standard 2-1. Okay. However, I think that this is in a better area. This is a nice product. You could probably for these 2-1s get around like I would say like $23 to $2,400. Okay. How big is it? 2720. Okay, so each one is about okay. It's about like 1,300 square feet. Man, you could probably get away with like charging like $2,500 for this. However, at that price, guys, this property makes no sense whatsoever. All right, no sense whatsoever. $5,000, even if you charged, shoot, you know, $3,500 for each one of these 3-2s, right? It would make no sense. So for that reason, we're going to go ahead. We're going to discard this property as well. And go down to our last property, guys, which is keeping us in Broward County for today. Our last property is just $450,000, and they're currently paying $10,815 a year in taxes. It's 1,819 square feet. Okay, and let's see. They don't tell us how much you're getting in rents. But they tell us that it's in flood zone AE, so I remember that carries a little bit of a premium. Let's look at the pictures for this property. Okay. So again, this is dated, really dated. It's going to require a lot of work. You can tell right away. Yeah, I mean, Jesus. Did they Photoshop that there? Dude, of all the places to Photoshop something, you Photoshop some new furniture on. Yeah, with a book. This is ridiculous. All right. Wow. This guy's a genius. Dude, how do you bother to like get this, guys? How do you bother to crop that picture in, right? How do you bother to Photoshop that picture in there? And you don't even bother to Photoshop the damn freaking like cabinets, dude. How are you at the property as a real estate agent taking these pictures? Because they were probably taken on an iPhone, right? And not bother at least, dude, put the damn things up. Try to make it passable, my dude. Close the damn thing. My guy or girl. Yeah. Anyway, guys, let's look at the guts of this. I don't expect much. It's in Hollandale Beach. It's not a terrible location, okay? But it's 2-1-1s, guys. 2-1-1s, okay? How much could you possibly rent these out for? Let's see. 1-1s in Broward County. You could get $1,600 on median. So let's put that $1,600 there, right? And at $1,600, like this does not even pay the mortgage, okay? And that's if you could get these rented for median, right? This is probably gonna rent below median if you had to rent it right away. Just like put some lipstick on the pig, kind of sort of like paint those walls, try to like just make it look like nice and clean and rent it out. Man, you would probably be getting like $1,400 maybe 1,500, right? And so this property makes no sense whatsoever. That or this guy would need to reduce his price down to, man, 350. You know, and I would say not 35. Well, 35,000. Like I take it right now. But at 350, it starts making a little bit of sense, just because if you could really get this at 1,600, right? The property's starting to look better. And this is what I say, guys, right? When we say like, all right, guys, like, look, this is in the green right here. It kind of like, if you were doing the 1% rule, you might say, hey, this is Andres, this is pretty close to 1% rule. This looks pretty good. Yeah, dude, but like you would never get mortgage. It would take you so long to cash flow, right? Even if we increase this to 5.98 or we improve this to 5.98, it's still, you know, barely passable, right? We would really need to like get this property at a 4.5% interest rate for it to start making some sense. And you can see that even with a fantastic interest rate, like we saw properties today where you would get more cash, right, for your investment. So you can see here, guys, we'll put it back at 6.38, which it's at right now. And your return on your investment here over the long run is 7%. So you're better off on this property, right? Even if you bought it at 350, mind you, you're better off just putting it in the S&P 500. You would make more money. But this guy actually wants 450 for this, like he's nuts. So for that reason, this last property for today is also a big fat fail. We're gonna go ahead and put that up here. Guys, there were two properties that I don't know how we skipped them, or like if I didn't count correctly when we started this, I think we deleted some. But that is all that we have today. So let's see, only one property today made it out of 9 that we analyzed. So let me know, guys, what you guys thought. And then we will see you guys tomorrow. I would say if you have any questions about the one that really did, I think it's pretty good property, just let me know, hit me up in the comments, and I will make sure to get back to you. All right, guys, have a great